Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple show. I'm here with my host, Dr. Bart Precourt, who has been a healthcare practitioner for over 20 years, practicing a range of modalities, including chiropractic, kinesiology, acupuncture, functional nutrition and supplementation, as well as lab testing, all out of his clinic, Balance Health Studio in Seagrove Beach, Florida, which is right next to his amazing organic cafe, Prima Organic Cafe, and also works virtually with people on Zoom, just like this, all around the world. So he's the founder of the Health Edge program, which is a cutting edge health program for entrepreneurs and executives wanting to take their health to the next level, as well as just working one-on-one with athletes and celebrities all around the world. So we are very lucky to have our questions answered by you tonight. So guys, don't hold back. Put them in the chat, as Dr. Bart said, Facebook as well. I'll get those questions over to him.
So looking forward to tonight. Big common theme is all about the virus and the strategies that we can take, and we're not going to hide from it. Like we're not going to hide from that topic or avoid it. We're going to tackle it. And then if you guys haven't been following me on Facebook, I will continue to just kind of flood the airways with information about vitamins, about nutrients, about our immune system, all of the stuff that we can go a little bit deeper in tonight, but those little tidbits during the week. So those are great ways. If you're not already, go ahead and share those out. The way that the metrics work nowadays, the algorithms for Facebook, the moment I mention, something like a virus or, a vitamin or even the word health, the algorithm just shuts it down. So I kind of really want you guys to just kind of like keep doing the thing, keep sharing it out, keep spreading love. And, I'll just continue to do best I can, and we'll just continue to try to make an impact and help people level up.
Yeah, for sure, guys. If you can share, hit that share button, and then more people can get this, because it's true. There's we need more discussions from lots of different point of views so that everybody can make the right decision. So, shall we dive into the first question?
Yeah, let's get after it.
Okay, awesome. Well, look, we're talking about you brought up the virus, and we do have a question here. What happens if I get the Delta strain? There's a lot of talk about the Delta strain at the moment. Let's can we kick off with that?
Yeah, let's get right to that. This might be here. So let's talk about the Delta strain. I think this might be the most important part of this conversation tonight. There is so much concern. There's a lot of worry. There's a lot of fear about the Delta. I'm gonna share with you a little bit about it right now. And hopefully it really takes a lot of that concern, worry, and fear out of it on both sides. And Karen, I want to make it, and I think we will, and hopefully we have in the past, and just make it clear. Oh man, these topics are becoming so divisive. And that is the last thing in the world that I want us to present from our show here, that we're on one side or the other. It is always about pro health. It is always about helping us wherever we're at, whether you choose to get vaccinated or not get vaccinated. I think right now, all of us, anything we can do to bring people together and stop creating, sides and whatever may be divisiveness, I think that's the first and most important thing. And I hope everyone, listening tonight recognizes that is my goal as well. That, listen, I literally have thousands of clients, many of which have been vaccinated, many of which have been not, vaccinated. Love and care for them all, and I hopefully they feel that as well, feel welcome, and no matter what your decision was. Either way, it's almost like I don't care, because either way, the goal is to level up our own health. So I want to dive into the Delta strain a little bit, and I literally want to take some fear out of it, because we have more fear than necessary here. So the Delta strain, just to give you a reference, and this is a fair reference to talk about the flu for a moment here. So, and I think people will relate to it and understand it. So every year the flu comes around, which is a virus, and every year the flu has multiple strains that come out of it. That's how a virus adapts. That's how it tries to keep itself essentially in existence. It tries to find a host, and depending on the host that it finds, it may adapt itself. And that's where the new strains come from. So every individual is a little bit different. So these viruses just keep doing their thing so they can survive as well. And that's where we come up with strains. So strains are nothing new. This is exactly what all viruses do. So, and that is also why, Karen, like the flu, every year we say, well, you know, when they come out with a vaccine for the flu, they say, well, they got it about 50% right. They got it about 60% right this year. Oh, this one's a little tougher. And you know, and some people get vaccinated and sometimes it helps for it and sometimes it doesn't. Some people don't get vaccinated and they're still fine. So kind of the same category here. So let's talk specifically about this Delta strain. I think I mentioned this last week. Delta really just stands for, they use the I guess that's the Greek alphabet, like alpha, beta, then, you know, eventually delta, to just name them. Prior to that, they could have named it based on where it came from, the UK, California, Brazil, etc. So that's where those names come from. Once they recognize that there are, you know, these strains, and how do they do that? They take the actual data, they do a swab, they bring it over into very special labs, and they do genome testing on it. And that's where they start to recognize when it's different. But the test that most of us are used to, the PCR test, even the blood test, if you go down to your doctor and draw blood and send it out, they won't test if it's a Delta. So if someone tells you you have Delta, they may be guessing, but it's inaccurate to tell you that you have Delta unless you've sent it to the CDC and they are checking the genome of it. So that is a starting point there. Now, here's the thing about the Delta strain. It has an affinity for basically the sinus passage, the nose and the mouth. Let's just keep easy terminology here. And really the mucus glands in those areas. That's the tissue that it likes. Now, you can have the Delta strand and COVID, right? So they're like, you can still get both. This part of it, that strand of the COVID, just happens to like those glands, that tissue. With that being said, because that tissue, it isn't necessarily as robust and doesn't have as many defense mechanisms prior. It is part of the innate immune system, and I'll discuss that in just a moment, and how we strengthen it. Because it's part of, like, it's kind of a vulnerable area of the body, those mucus glands, because they're dealing with everything. Every breath you take, they're dealing with something. So when they get, you know, a virus in that level that likes that particular type of mucus, it can be very contagious. So I'm not going to sit there and tell that it's not contagious, but that by itself isn't necessarily enough for us to panic.
Yeah.
Meaning this, we also know that based on all the data, and I'm going to talk about, so I'm going to make it your job to remind me about the difference between clinical data, clinical research, and science. This is important for us to understand this terminology. So the data right now is telling us it's not more deadly.
Yeah.
It's more contagious, but it is not more deadly.
Yeah. So
immediately someone is going to then say, well, then, you know, doc, why are some of the hospitals having more, you know, like why are there more people in the hospitals as a result of COVID? And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, it's not uncommon to have a wave. We're experiencing that wave. And I think most importantly, and listen myself, I'm a clinical data researcher. So we collect data, we use that data, develop our own research. And then I call my buddies, the men and women doing this work, and we use that data to make our next best decision for our patients. And this happens all day long. We're on the phone with each other all the time. And it's not like real scientific. It is, hey, it literally, Karen, it's this simple. Hey, 10 people came into my office today. I punched 10 of them in the head and 10 of them walked out and they got like hurting. So now I know if I punch them in the head, they hurt. That's clinical. Okay.
Yes, that's clinical data.
Follow me here. So this is how we gather this data. Right now, the data is that there's not an increased death rate.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is really, really, really important to understand because there's been such an emotional pull here on.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. So everyone, just kind of take a breather here. The second part of this is that the Delta strains of, yes, it's spreading, but it also has different symptomatology. So let's talk about that for just a second. The symptomatology with the Delta strain is actually going to mimic very much like a head cold.
Okay.
Because again, we're talking about sinuses and we're talking about the throat. So it may never get past this point, and you literally think you had a head cold. You're exposed to the Delta. Yeah. And it may last a couple days. So you might get stuffy, like stuffy sinuses, sore throat, and potentially a little diarrhea. And that's really common. That diarrhea comes because you're killing off you're killing off white blood cells, and you get the debris down through your body, and it kicks out as diarrhea eventually. So that symptomatology right there is probably what you would experience if you think you had the Delta. So it is also, as a clinical, data guy, like we sit back and go, there are so many people who never had loss of taste and loss of smell.
Yeah.
So have had the Delta before and have been like, oh, and people thinking, what, that's interesting because I never lost my taste, never lost my smell. That is the hallmark of the typical COVID, is taste and smell with fever. And not everyone had the fever, but the taste and smell was like the hallmark benchmark there. So if you end up getting COVID, and again, we still definitely, there's still a question about the validity of testing. And that's not it's not like a conspiracy theory or anything. Literally just came out. In fact, I believe what I read was that by the end of the year, they're going to ditch the entire program that they're using now. They don't ditch it now because it's the only thing they have, and they're going to come up with new technology. And that, Karen, is really where many men and women like myself were practicing as clinicians. We are in here every single day trying to help our people. We're always saying, listen, time's going to tell. The data will help us. So the more that we can just build health along the way and hold out the major decisions that we can't turn back from, if we can hold them off as time unfolds, then time may work to our advantage. So I don't know exactly what the initial question was there on the Delta, but if they get what is it? Really, it is a weaker, more contagious strand of the COVID that's pretty isolated to the sinus passages, to the throat. I'm gonna share in just a moment. I guess this would be as good a time as any. What we're doing in our office, which has been part of the COVID strategy, anyways. So this is just ramping it up. So I'm going to recommend two things. So guys, listen, and I got one of them here. Some of you already have this because I saw some of you today and you're like, yeah, I still have that from the last time you said that. So mucosal glands, listen folks, this is part of your innate immune system. Remember, we have two types of immune systems, an innate and then also an adaptive or acquired immune system. The innate immune system is your mucus glands. Those are your tears, your snots, your sweat, your skin, your stomach acids. These are all part of your innate immune system. So anything we can do to provoke that system to be more active and more robust, meaning literally let's build up that mucosal lining, that is leveling up. That is how we protect ourselves. Let's be crystal clear here, because someone said, Bart, well, they didn't say it that way. They said in a very not nice way, saying, yeah, but you're trying to tell everyone that this cures COVID. I'm not telling us that. I'm not telling anybody that. I'm telling you that the way the human body protects itself against viruses is through the innate immune system first, and let's enhance that. And then it uses things like the adaptive immune system to develop our B cells and our T cells, which have memory, and that is where our antibodies are developed. So what do we do? There's this, Karen, I don't know if anyone's been able to see it, but it's really small. Okay, it's an herbal throat spray. Literally, you just squirt it like 2, 3, 4, 5 times in a row. And the way that you're going to use this, literally every time you're around somebody, you're going to go out to eat, you're going to go out to a restaurant, squirt a bunch of times. That will elicit a more of a rich mucosal lining for your throat. What's in it is cool. Marshmallow root. And that, so if you guys like to study or look things up, look up the benefits of marshmallow root. And one of the benefits, you'll see that it increases mucosal lining. Like, that's super cool. That's exactly what we're trying to do. So when we, Karen, week in and week out for the past year, we've been talking about how to level up. Here it is. Like, this is how level up. We're always in the situation where we have to adapt, we have to, adjust, and then we have to execute once again. So this is the execution part. So we know that there's a Delta variant. So let's build up the mucosal lining. So marshmallow root, there's some sage in there. Of course, there's echinacea in there, and there's even a little bit of myrrh. So there's some phenomenal herbs that have incredible history, incredible research in helping the body defend itself. So that is one component of it. There's also another. So we have this mucosal lining, everything from our nasal passage through our throat, all the way down through our gut. So we want to think of that as well. The other one that product. I don't have it in front of me. Karen, maybe you can just write it into the notes or something. And it's called Sinus Forte. But specifically in this, there's a couple different herbs, but specifically it's golden seal. Golden seal is phenomenal. So it's called Sinus Forte. Did I say that?
Yeah, I've got the link in the chat for everyone.
It's golden seal, golden rod, echinacea once again, and then a little bit of eyebright. All of these. So you got echinacea, which is something that activates the white blood cells. You got golden seal, golden root, help mucosal lining. Eyebright is always something that like it's great for allergies. So this is really what we're talking about. So all of these things, absolutely phenomenal. Things that I would consider really kind of avoiding or paying attention to. Anything that's like a decongestant, that removes that mucosal lining. So if you're getting rid of it and getting it and you don't have that mucosal lining, the reason we get congested is because your body's fighting. And those little white blood cells are fighting off the little, bad bacteria and bad, they're fighting all those bad guys, and then things get swollen up in there. So I would be mindful of, using products like that. I'd be mindful of antacids in your stomach, because again, that's part of that innate immune system. And if you're on Tums, you're on Prilosec, you're on a Rolade, those things, man, you're breaking down one of the most powerful mechanisms that your body uses to keep bad guys out. Yeah. I'd do your best in like kind of avoiding those, and then boosting up on, anything with golden seal in it, absolutely fantastic. Anything with marshmallow root, absolutely fantastic. And again, we use that little spray called an herbal throat spray.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And it's for those of you that do a lot of public speaking, or you're on like a lot of Zooms like that. You guys are going to laugh right now, but this is real. I didn't do this for the show. I have 3 of them here.
I love that. Awesome.
2 and one still has some stuff. More than I've ever been. So I'm talking, and I want to make sure now more than ever that my throat doesn't get raspy. That's that mucosal lining. So I'll keep it nice and lubricated, drinking some water, constantly keeping the, nice and hydrated, keeping things moist in there. That's the way we roll.
Okay, we've got a follow-up question on the Sinus Forte. Do we start taking that every day now until flu season has passed, or only when symptomatic? Is it good to use also when we travel? No,
yes, and hold on. So what I would say, dosing 1 and 1 a day. This is a builder. We want to use this as something to help build up that mucosal lining. So 1 twice a day, perfect formula. It won't work in this scenario. We want to build the fort. We want to get strong. So it's not as good in the acute phase. So this isn't something I would say, well, you got, COVID, you got the Delta variant, then start taking this. You would, but it wouldn't necessarily be the one that makes you feel better. This is something we take right here, right now. We know the Delta variant is more contagious, or whatever we're going to call it. It bounces around a little bit more, and we want to make sure that we are building up that first line of defense, which is the mucosal lining. Do I think it's great for travel? Yes. And again, this herb, my experience with this herb, especially, golden seal, and I use this a lot for my gut health programs as well, that it will, the frequency of it is really the benefit. So speaking of travel, though, the number 1 thing we bring on travel is Zypan. That's the digestive enzyme that is increasing the hydrochloric acid when we travel, so we can fight off all of these things, bacteria and, and the parasites, all of the above.
Now with this as well, we want to keep up with the vitamin C, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc as well.
100%. Yeah. So listen, now we're talking about 5 different things that potentially are just for us, to level ourselves up for COVID. And yes, that's my answer. Yes, we take 5 different things so we can assure ourselves. Affirmative action, Karen, is most positive. The most powerful thing we can do is we're taking an action for a very specific reason, and that is to level up our health. So vitamin C, D, and zinc. Hopefully you're already in that rhythm. I might as well just give a quick review of why, because sometimes we lose sight of the why here. So let's go to zinc first. I just did a post on zinc, and the more I talk about zinc, the more I like zinc. And again, if you are local, you can come by the office and do a free zinc test Very simple. We give you a little solution, you throw it in your mouth, you squish it around. It should taste very metallic-y. If it doesn't, you're low in zinc. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
Zinc, by the way, does not hold well in the body. Like B12 holds well in the body as long as we can get it in there. Zinc does not. D holds well in the body. It's fat soluble. Zinc does not. So we need constant sources of it. So zinc, oysters. I don't know if a lot of people eat oysters, but oysters, I don't eat a lot of them, but I know that's like where the best source. Red meat is another good source. A lot of fish have zinc in it. So those are the things that we want to, for food wise. But zinc, one of my absolute favorite things about zinc is this, and this is probably the most important thing for everyone to hear this, that zinc inhibits viral replication. So what that means again is that a virus by itself is useless without taking over a host. It needs a host. It needs your DNA. It needs to get inside your cell. And once it's in there, it needs to take over your DNA. Once it does that, it's like, cool, I got myself a new ride and I'm going to go pick up some other cars. So it tries to go replicate itself from cell to cell to cell. Zinc inhibits that. What does that mean to you and I? That keeps our viral load down. That's how we live. Like that's what it means to have a good, strong immune system. So having plenty of available zinc. So here is another little tidbit. One of the cool things about zinc is that it helps build up mucosal lining. Nice. The challenge here, I think general as this is clinical data, clinical research again, that I find most people are deficient in zinc, just like I do in vitamin D. I don't like it as a serum test, as a blood test. I like it flat out just as a test that, because the way we test it, if you guys have your lab work, there's a marker and there's a liver enzyme called alkaline phosphatase. That is usually indicative of how much zinc you're holding on to. And we want that number to be above 70. That's a little FYI. If it's way down low, then it means you're not holding much zinc. So we want that the zinc levels to be, there's really not a level in the body like there is vitamin D, but I find clinically both zinc and vitamin D to be traditionally very low. And again, this speaks to, is it really the virus that is the biggest issue right now worldwide? Or is it because we really have across the board fundamentally weaker human beings? Yeah. And, with that, and, I mentioned this earlier, and I am not, folks, guys, I mean this when I say this, I am not judging at all, but I've said from day one, the fact that alcohol sales are through the roof, fast food restaurants are thriving, sugar is at an all-time production as it's ever been. I drive to my office every day, and literally there is a line wrapped around the building at the donut shop. It doesn't make sense that people are about just hearing about a Delta virus, but at the same time, there's a line around the building at the donut shop.
And how many hours is your immune system depressed from sugar we were talking about?
At least an hour. Say it this way, an hour per 20 grams, which would mean like a packet of sugar in your coffee.
Yeah.
So
and a donut or a couple of donuts has a lot more than that.
Yeah. And it's real. So like when people say, well, my doctor said it's no big deal. No, that's not accurate. Like it's in the research, it's plastered all over it.
Yeah.
Sugar inhibits eosinophils, sugar, which is a huge part of your white blood cell activity. Like it literally slows them down. It almost stalls. So we watch these things under microscopes. It stalls what's called phagocytosis. That is phagocytosis. I always think of like Pac-Man. It goes around each things. It stops it. That's what sugar does. It halts it in its place. So it's not eating up the bad guys. So for you, for your children, for your friends and family, I get like, oh, you want to yell at someone to get a jab or to not get a jab, whatever. Put the donut down.
Yeah. Yeah. Even just change the conversation. If we can even if we choose to exercise or just add in one extra healthy food, anything we can do, as you keep talking about, to level up means that we're just getting healthier to fight whatever virus comes up. Jeannie's got a question here. Is zinc better than Immuplex?
She's talking about some specifics. So let's
specific supplements. Yeah.
go into a little bit about the dosing of zinc, because this is actually important. I wish this was just like super straightforward. It is, but it isn't. So zinc, again, it is a metal, and we don't want to put loads and loads of zinc in by itself for too long a period of time, because it works synergistically in the human body, very much like iron does, Karen. You know, and we've talked about, I don't have these big iron pills. I see a lot of anemic women, but I don't just put on these big, put them on these big iron doses, because that's not how the way the human body absorbs it. So we want to make this super bioavailable. My favorite bioavailability one is something called zinc chelate. Okay. And in the beginning, you're going to want to take, so let's just say the person comes in and they've done a little zinc test and they don't have any. You're going to take about 50 milligrams a day. And that's a pretty high dose. So anywhere on a daily dose around 20, but up to maybe 50 milligrams. But that 50 milligrams you'd only do for about a month. We're really just getting it to load up, make up for the deficiency.
Yeah. And
then an ideal world, so the synergistic mineral for zinc is copper. So, I don't want to make this confusing, but I want to give point on strategy here. Zinc chelate for the first month, and I would do that anywhere from 20 grams to 50 grams, which would be anywhere from about 2 to 5 tablets if you're getting my product called zinc chelate. I don't recommend zinc oxide. There's a couple others out there that I don't recommend. They're not bioavailable, and you want them bioavailable because does help in the short term, but we want to make it easy on the body. Once we have a month of that, we're kind of like uploading it. There's another product I use, and it's called Chezyn. I know that doesn't mean anything. It's Cheyzn. That is
C-H-E, what was that?
YZN. I know, really, really weird.
Okay.
And I'll get to Jeannie's question in just a moment about the Immuplex. That Chezyn is a perfect harmonistic blend, the way nature provides it, of copper and zinc. Same thing, about 20 milligrams a day, 30 milligrams a day for daily maintenance. And I would have to look in the bottle, but I believe that's going to be 2 or 3 tablets a day. And that's good for maintenance right there. The challenge here is this. So listen, this is important to understand. If you're just taking super high doses of zinc every day, you will deplete your copper storage. And then all of a sudden we've got imbalances going on in the adrenal glands. We got some fatigue going on. So let's just be real mindful of this conversation. So there are strategies here. It doesn't mean just go to CVS and just plow back, copious amounts of zinc. All right. So to Jeannie's question, she asked, how about Immuplex? Immuplex is one of the products that I use, and I use this as my zinc source now. I started with zinc chelate. I use zinc Chezyn every now and then. Immuplex is one of the smartest products out there. It will help the immune system function better as a whole, and it has zinc in it. It's not a super high dose of zinc, but you'll get your 15 to 20 grams out of it by taking a daily dose of about 4 to 6 capsules of Immuplex.
Oh.
And clinically, you might say, well, why don't I just give you Immuplex or Chezyn to begin with? One of the reasons being is that people understand when the bottle says zinc on it, they take that bottle.
Yeah. And also, as you said, a lot of people are deficient, right?
Yes, most are, Karen. Really, most are.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done that test and been deficient myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Cool. So I've put all those supplements in the chat for you guys so that you can grab them. Obviously, as you said, there are some protocols associated with this. If somebody wants to dive a little bit deeper or get in touch, do they have to be in Seagrove Beach? How do they work with you?
Very simple. Literally, they can just call the office. They can schedule a Zoom just like we're doing right here, and we can do it all. We can send lab requisites. If you have other labs that you want me to review, you can send all those via email. It's really been easy. And then we do a Zoom call just like this. So you really can be anywhere. You can be in your living room if that's, beneficial. And it's nice. And we can help with this strategy and whatever other strategies with thyroid, anything. So if people want to dive bit deeper. That's become a real big part of our practice now, and coaching and teaching and stuff like that. I've enjoyed it. That's why I have so many of these guys sitting at my desk, because more Zooms now. And I really enjoy them, Karen. It allows me to, connect with my peeps a little bit more.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think all of us understand that health, it's not like singular. It never is. It's multiple things going on. Even as I'm talking tonight, and I'm saying, watch out if you're on Prilosec and someone goes, whoa, wait a minute, I've been on Prilosec for 10 years. What does that mean to my zinc? It means your zinc levels are low. That's what it means. Yeah. And it's going to be harder for you to absorb those. So having that zinc chelate bioavailability is going to be huge for you. So, and it may take you a little while to get back, that the normal level. So that opportunity there is a great one.
Awesome. And I'll also link in the chat because we have a vitamin D and a vitamin C supplement that you recommend as well.
Yeah. So just real quickly here on the vitamin D, I don't think I can say this enough. Vitamin D is what protects the cell from the virus coming in. So the virus knocks on the door and a bunch of big dudes show up and they're all vitamin D, and they said, you're not drunk. Yeah. And if you got a whole army of vitamin D sitting there, there's more of a likelihood that the virus is not getting in your cell. That is why for some of you, some of you, you've been around people, hugging people, living with people, sleeping next to people who've had COVID, and you don't have it.
Yeah.
And
totally.
Part of that is because you have these fatty acids, specifically vitamin D. There's others, A, D, E, and K, but specifically vitamin D is the one that is protecting that cell wall. So I typically make a recommendation of anywhere between 4 and 10,000 IUs per day.
Okay.
If you're doing labs, now here's the tricky part, Karen. On a typical lab, it'll come back as a normal range as low as 20 or 30 micrograms per micrograms per milliliter. That is way too low. That is not a good defense system. People will bust through that wall. I like to see those functionally right around 70. No lower than 50, but somewhere between 70 and 100. That's where I try to keep mine. That's what I'm going to recommend for everyone. So, in a combination of exposing yourself to some sun without sunscreen on, not enough to get burnt, but so you can activate the body's normal production, the natural production. And really, because vitamin D technically is part of the hormonal system, part of the endocrine system. So we want our bodies to naturally make it. There aren't really foods that are abundant in it. My favorite, if you're going to take it, and if most likely, if you've been around me long enough or listened to this show, you're already taking cod liver oil. One of the reasons I've always been a huge advocate of cod liver oil is because of vitamin A and vitamin D naturally occurring in that supplement. And they're always supporting that lipid layer that protects the cell, protects the DNA in there. And then, so that's Cataplex D. So that would be equivalent, again, 4 to 10,000 IUs. That'd be about 4 to 6 of those little white tablets. And then the Cataplex C. So this is a little different, folks. Again, if you're listening for the first time, there's some big differences of vitamin C out there. I use something called Cataplex C. There's nothing wrong with using vitamin C, which is traditionally it's 100% ascorbic acid. And ascorbic acid is good because it helps acidify the body. Viruses and bacteria don't like an environment that are acidic. But the unique thing about the Cataplex C, or about the vitamin C enzyme, which ascorbic acid is not. The enzyme is all the working parts that are still together. Remember, ascorbic acid, I have my hand up for you guys just listening and not watching. Just imagine I have my hand up and I got 5 fingers up, and ascorbic acid is just my thumb. But all the other enzymes, vitamin P, vitamin J, the alkylamides, all those are the other fingers. Together, that makes the enzyme. Ascorbic acid by itself is not an enzyme, meaning it's not active. And there's where this is so important when it comes to hunting down viruses, hunting down bacteria. So vitamin C is on the outside of the cell, some on the inside of the cell. It's all over the place. It can be very abundant, but also it's water soluble. And Karen, we use it every single day. We need to eat it. Fruits and veggies, supplement. We need copious amounts of it. So this vitamin C that sits outside of the cell, it is literally looking around. And the moment it recognizes a foreign invader, an antigen, it signals the enzyme part of it. See, ascorbic acid wouldn't do this. The enzyme part of it sends a signal over to the white blood cells, things like your killer T cells, your B cells, and it starts to wake up that adaptive immune system and said, hey, someone's in our house that we don't like. Can you guys help? And the vitamin C does its role by signaling the white blood cells. And this is where having robust amounts of this, what I like is called Cataplex C, about 6 a day. Could you take more? Yeah. So the beauty is, this is also part of what like protects your skin, helps you absorb collagen, makes, helps you under the sun, all of that good stuff. So super good. They come in literally like 300 or 400 tablets in a bottle. I think there's a lot of them. So it's a very economical way of leveling up, which is really awesome.
We got a question here. I took a throat lozenge, Cold Ease, and had a lasting coating for hours. I thought it was a reaction, but does that mean I am low in zinc?
Can you repeat that?
Is there anything else that if you take, that you're low in zinc? She took a throat lozenge, which is Cold Ease, and had a lasting coating on her tongue.
No, that's probably like a zinc sulfate.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's probably just a little bit different. So I don't know if that would indicate that you're low or anything like that. And it's a little different source of zinc. That would probably fall in that category that I'm not a big fan of that zinc.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So come into the office if they want to do that zinc test.
Yeah. Real simple, easy breezy. In fact, Karen, I think they can order it. The website you're giving out, I think they can order their own if they want it. They want to family. I think they could order it. You just literally put like 5-10 mLs, like a little bit amount, swish it around your mouth and spit it out. It'd be good for like, if you want to just do it at home. That's why we offer for free. It's like no big deal. It's just one of the things, just an eye opener. And it's just, again, one of those simple strategies of affirmative action. So we can get our mind off of the, all of this division that's taking place. Like you just keep moving yourself in the right direction. You keep moving yourself in the direction of, I'm going to do something that's going to be kind and loving for my body today. I'm going to do something that's kind and loving for my neighbor today. And I don't have to do anything else.
Yes, I love that. And the reason we talk about this so much is so that you guys do have actions to take forward. We've talked about some of these supplements before, vitamin D, vitamin C. There's a lot of people that still aren't taking these, and they are really super simple strategies. They're not too expensive to be able to help us at this time and focus then on the things that we can do rather than focusing on the things that we can't control. All right. Should we move on to another question?
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Let's go in a different direction. We've got a bunch of other ones in here. What's your thoughts on eating for your blood type?
I'm not a huge fan of it. I love anything that gives us awareness. Love it. I don't necessarily use it clinically. Again, that's probably more so something that clinical data, clinical research, many of us, that's probably not our first go-to. Maybe 10 or 15 years ago, there was a lot of literature out. And I think since then that some of the approaches have changed just a little bit. So, but here's the thing, if you're doing it, like anything that you do that brings awareness about your connection with your food, I love. So I'll leave it on that. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I've got some pain in my upper right abdomen and I'm not eliminating properly. I'm doubling over in pain. Could this be my gallbladder?
Yeah, well, good self-diagnosis, because the answer is yes. There's a very good chance. Exactly. And that's what a sludgy gallbladder reacts like. So that upper right quadrant sits right underneath the ribs there, and it can be very painful if you have, almost like a gallstone in there, and you can't. The way this happens is prolonged stress, prolonged sympathetic dominance, estrogen dominance, especially for women. We'll see this a little more frequently in women. And of course, there's fried food. That should be the top of the list. And I think sometimes with our group that here, like, I just think no one eats fried food. I could be wrong. And but I'm kind of generalizing. I shouldn't, but fried food's really hard on the gallbladder. Processed food, chemicals, glyphosate, these are all real, folks. These are things that your gallbladder is trying to break down so they don't get into the rest of the body. And when we get exposed to all of it, it's just constantly working. And what happens is the bile gets very sludgy that's inside the gallbladder, and it clogs it up. And that clogging is what's causing the pain typically. So can we fix this? We sure can. So of course we want to clean up our diet. I love using intermittent fasting for this. It works phenomenal. So we're really giving a timeout and a break here. AF beta food is a beet product, a supplement I use. Pretty heavy dose here, Karen, 12, 15 a day, every day, at least 10 days straight, most likely about 30 to break it down. And little bit by little bit. And that, so I think they said they were also backed up a little bit, pooping. And that's because the bile, when we have really thin bile, that's what helps move things through the intestines. It's almost like it's spraying down and helping things slide out. But if the gallbladder's backed up, but I would encourage you, there's a lot of things you can do prior to taking it out. So I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad you asked that question. So hold on to your gallbladder, and let's navigate through that.
Yeah. And that might even be one where, you know, whether it's you or another practitioner, they could really get some advice, because otherwise a lot of doctors do end up recommending a gallbladder removal, right?
Yeah, top 5 surgery in our country. So the answer is yes. So, and it
seems to be recommended quite quickly. So yeah, I mean, whoever asked that question, jump on and see, because there are strategies, there are some things that you can do, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Next question. My 4-year-old has a pattern of fever, body and tummy aches. What does this mean?
4-year-old with fever, body, and tummy aches. Okay. So with all that I have there, what I would say is that most likely your 4-year-old is experiencing these little mini infections, which is how your 4-year-old is building up him or her their adaptive immune system, which is awesome. Most likely there's a calcium deficiency. And if you can tackle that fever using something, I use something called calcium lactate powder, that will help mitigate the fever, but let it run its course. So calcium is still the number 1 most abundant mineral in the human body, and we need a very bioavailable source of it. So when we have fever, we've run out. So we want to give it that, like you literally can put it in a bottle, you can put it in a sippy cup, you can put it with juice. I don't care how you get it in there, but it'd be about a teaspoon. This should be on pretty much all of our home medicine cabinets, whether you have kids or not. Like everyone should have calcium lactate powder at home, sitting in a jar, and it's there ready when you need it. So about a teaspoon a day, or really in this scenario, I'd probably do about a 1/4 teaspoon a day. And then on the day that the fever comes, I would bump it up to an entire teaspoon. Now, there's most likely it's going to make the little critter poop big time, which is okay. That fever is what causes the body aches. Think about when we have like the flu, when we have a fever, it makes all of our joints hurt. Your body releases a chemical during that time, and it literally makes it hurt to move. So we're not supposed to move. That's the innate wisdom of the body. The bellyache, my guess it's associated. If I had more history here, Karen, I would have other questions asking to see, hey, my first question would be to the mom would be, does your kid have itchy butt at night? And you got to ask them. I want to know if their butt itches at night, see if they do have a parasite, and then also start paying attention to their stools. A parasite getting active every now and then can create a fever, can create body aches, can mimic all of this, including that gut ache.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, with all of these, it's, the more information or the more you can jump in and ask questions, which is what you do on things like Zoom, the more recommendations you can give. All right, next question. All right, this is a 2-part question. So I'm going to do part 1 and then we'll go into part 2.
Okay.
First one, I've been reading about fulvic acid. It supposedly helps with allergies and a dozen other things. I have hay fever. I got hay fever at about 20 years old, and my allergies are now all year round. I gave up on antihistamines. Do you think fulvic acid is something safe to try? And if so, do you know a safe dose?
Okay. Interesting. Fulvic acid is technically a byproduct of like trace minerals and natural elements in the earth. Do I think it's safe? Absolutely. So really, this is what fulvic acid does. We'll just make this quick. Fulvic acid makes everything else work better.
Okay.
It's like a precursor to everything. So it just makes it work better. So do I think it's safe to use? Yes. I don't really have a dosing for you. I don't use fulvic acid a lot in my office, yet I'm not opposed to it. So no concerns there. Would I use that as my primary strategy for allergies? No, but I tell you what it would. What we were just talking about a little bit earlier, the Sinus Forte, chronic allergies means that you have a deficient mucosal lining in the throat or in the nasal passage. Over all those years of all the things you've tried to done, the steroids, the antihistamines, the sprays, just all of that stuff, you got to rebuild that. And most likely building up the gut in that simultaneously is how it does. And I'm a good experiment of that. Like I grew up with so many allergies, and to the point where literally for this probably too much information, but for years I never even had nose hair. And that's part of our innate immune system. Well, because I was always having an issue there. So it's always so raw and everything like that. But now it's, it's restored. So I would use that Sinus Forte on a regular basis. And then I would probably add, I know I'm talking about so many different products. There's something we have called Allerplex. It'd be the equivalent of that Immuplex that I was talking about earlier, but specific for people who have chronic allergies, long-standing allergies.
Okay, awesome. And then part two for that question is, for that person is, I'm getting up earlier and going to bed later, and my eating window went back to 12 hours. What is the minimum amount of days to try and do an 8-hour feeding window for intermittent fasting to be effective?
Well, I think the easy answer is any day, Karen, any day that you do a single day of intermittent fasting, it's a victory. And in all seriousness, like that is good. Like we had a timeout. Like you give your body an opportunity to, recover, repair, rebuild, and just kind of take a break. So, it's like having a day off. Like, is it good to have one day off? Certainly. And I think if they're trying to dive a little bit deeper here, a 5-2 schedule, is good. I think that's one clinically is probably the most common one I recommend. 5 days of some level of, pushing your fast a little bit. Females, again, I love to see you work your way into comfortably about 14, maybe 16 hours a day. That would be your 5. And then 2 days of just, maybe just being, 10 or 12 hours. And guys, maybe add a little bit more. They're probably 16 hours, 5 days a week would be a real good schedule, maybe even up to 18 hours.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I mean, I think that's important for everyone. Any really good thing that you can do on any day, like do it, right? I used to be so all or nothing. Like if I couldn't do something for like the whole week, or I couldn't like work out for like 10 hours, then I just wouldn't do it at all. And really, the more we can do little bits each day, the better results you get, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm not into the all or nothing. I'm like, I'm the opposite. Just do a little bit and just keep all like, just don't let it stop, because it takes so much energy literally to like get something rolling again. So just don't let it stop. Just keep it inching along. Some days you're going to be flying, some days you're inching, but just keep inching along.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, we've got a question here. A lot of health conscious people that I follow are talking about parasites and coffee enemas. Is this common and something people should be more educated on? Is there another way to get rid of parasites?
Yeah, whoever asked that question, you got a lot of weird friends that you follow. That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
That is 100% yes. We should. I think the awareness of recognizing that everyone's got parasites, and if we start to come up with strategies, and I'll give you a couple right now, of how to rid them, a couple times a year. My wife and I would do twice a year, regardless. I got 8 dogs, whatever. You're out eating sushi, you're out eating food, like you're gonna get a parasite. And if we can reduce, and we've talked about this with stealth pathogens and stuff, if we can reduce a lot of the bad guys on the inside, that's half, if not more, of the battle. Like if you're super strong and you got no invaders inside, when you get faced with the virus, you're gonna have a very, a much better opportunity to get, to fight off. So real simple for that. Yes, there is for your about 85% of the parasites out there will respond really good to an herb called wormwood.
Okay.
We use something called Wormwood complex. I do it 10 days on, 10 days off, 10 days on. And usually in that, literally that 1 month, you'll wipe out most of the parasites in the human body, which is beautiful. I use 6 a day during the 10 on, and then 0 on the 10 off, and then 6 a day on the 10 on again. The reason we gap it like that is because you're going to kill most of them, quite frankly, probably in the first 5, 6, 7 days. But there's eggs. And then, so that's, we come off the supplements for a little bit that come off that herb, and then go back on it 10 days again. So it's in 1 month, you go 10 on, 10 off, 10 on. And then I use something, you got to clear this out. This is really important. We got to clear this out. We don't want that debris hanging out. And I use something called Zymex 2, and I'll use this all month long at 6 a day. And it's a great depurative. It'll help pull things out. It's really, really good for the intestines. So it's almost like cleansing the intestines as well. So it's those 2 products, and that's my go-to. And there's others we can use, but those are my go-to. And clinically, I've had great success with those.
Okay. Awesome. Love it. Next question. Is there anything I can do about gout? When it comes on, it's extremely painful.
Yes. This question has come up a couple times just in the last little bit here. So gout is a beast. I'm going to start by saying that gout is technically a kidney issue.
Okay.
Yeah, it is downstream from the liver, and it's not getting things filtered around properly. And what happens is, because we don't filter them properly, these crystals that should be getting filtered out and pushed out are recirculating into the body. And these crystals go land pretty much the farthest away from the heart as can be. They land up in our joints, like sometimes in the thumb joint, but most common down in like the big toe joint, where the big toe connects to the foot, and it literally can start to erode that joint. Brutal, brutal, brutal. So some simple things here, and I'll give a couple of supplements. I'll give a protocol that I use here. We're going to back off the alcohol. And listen, you'll be like, no, alcohol's fine. Then all of a sudden it triggers it. It's when it builds up, and then those crystals circulate. They land in the joint, but they're building up way before they landed in the joint. So it's not always like, it's not exactly, well, I ate red meat and alcohol last night. Sometimes it is associated to too much protein. So back off some of the protein. And again, I love protein, but if you got gout, you can't be eating red steak and red wine. Like that's gonna, grab, kind of get you a little bit here. So those crystals flow through there. Absolutely, positively, more veggies. Your cruciferous vegetables, pull and rake things out. That's what we want to do. You want to support the liver and the kidney. So Karen, in this scenario, there's 3 things I like to use. One's called Boswellia complex.
Okay.
That has turmeric in it, and it has celery root seed in it. And then, of course, the Boswellia herb. That's phenomenal for this. That helps with pain and inflammation. That's step 1. Then I use Phosfood liquid.
Okay.
This is going to help break down those crystals. And this is important. This is where the pain is coming from. 30 drops a day for a month. You just drop it in a little bit of warm water. And then we support the kidneys. And I use something called Arginex. We're going to help those kidneys get strong, because listen, if those crystals are not getting filtered through there, your kidneys are they're getting beat up. So that's my strategy there. Be patient with the process, and know that it takes a minute. Gout's a beast. But if you figure out your rhythm and you're supporting the body, most people I know just avoid, like, I'm just going to avoid red meat. I'm just going to avoid the alcohol. You got to support the body as well. We got to get the crystals out of there. Yeah,
for sure. Awesome. Love it. And yeah, guys, I've put some links in the chat for all those supplements. You can catch them in the replay too if you missed any. So awesome. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions that we have for today. We've gone through lots of different topics. Let's do our last one. What's going to be the one action that listeners take from this show today to move them towards their goal of becoming superhuman?
I'm gonna say spread the love.
Yeah.
And listen, and this is for all of us to hear. When people are scared, they don't do the right things. They don't say the right things. They don't think of the right things. and we need to show them a little grace. And one of the ways we can do it is just by spreading love. So pivot, change the topic, find your tribe, share, give, love, serve. If we don't do this on an individual basis, none of this is going to and I get that it's ramping up, but you can ramp up. We can ramp up as well. Like we can just continue to be kind. You can lead through your actions. So, again, I'm saying just, lead through love. That's the name of the game now.
I love that. And I also think it's almost good to always assume that somebody actually has the best intentions, or assume that somebody didn't mean to be like they are. Like whenever I've got you're at a restaurant and the waiter or the waitress is kind of grumpy or not very nice to you, or, you're like, your first reaction is to react to that. And I always try to think, you know what, maybe that person's dad is in hospital that day and they're really stressed out. Maybe their daughter just had a complete meltdown like 20 minutes before they came on their shift and they're having a really hard time. Like you could always assume that maybe they're going through something tough, and just, as you said, show them a bit of love, show them a bit of grace, be like, hey, I'm just going to assume, like, I really like to assume that person isn't trying to be horrible. They just are going through something tough right now. And you know what? It cheers you up, makes you feel better. You can react and feel really bad about that interaction, or you can be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to be extra nice to that person because they're grumpy. They obviously had a tough day.
Yeah. Amen to that, girl. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like we all have bad days, and we never know why that person's having a bad day. So just keep leveling up, keep spreading it out, keep sharing the love here.
Yeah, I love it.
Thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate you. Keep doing your thing. I appreciate you guys showing up every week. And then, like I said, just kind of keep sharing out, keep spreading love. Of course, we can take deliberate action for our mind, for our body, overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.